Welcome to Made in Science, the official podcast of the University of Stuttgart. My name is Wolfgang Holtkamp, and I'm Senior Advisor on International Affairs at our university. In today's episode, we welcome alumni Dr. Christy Peña-Munoz. She graduated from the University of Stuttgart with a Master of Science degree from our English-speaking WASTE program. WASTE is for Air Quality Control, Solid Waste and Wastewater Process Engineering. After her degree as a Master of Science, she acquired her doctoral degree in Environment Water, also from our university. After a few years gaining experience as an employee, she founded her own company, trying to improve wastewater management in her home country, Mexico. Today, I'm very glad to have the opportunity to talk to her about her experiences as student, employee, employer, and motivator, because her motto is protect the environment and promote sustainability.
Thank you, Wolfgang, for this introduction and for this invitation to talk a little bit about environment and sustainability and many other interesting topics.
Thank you for coming. We are so happy to have you here, and we are very lucky at this moment as well, because right now you are here in Germany, and you are in Germany because you want to find cooperation partners for your company and also promote your company. Now, the name of the company is KFG Umweltkonsultoria. In the name, it has also, in the English name at least, KFG Enviro Smart Solutions. So I was wondering, you offer solutions, but then to what questions actually and to what topics do you offer solutions?
Yeah, that's a good point. Solutions. We need lots of solutions and ideas for the environmental challenges that we face on our daily life. And for KFG Umweltkonsultoria, we focus mainly on waste management because this is a big challenge that we have currently in Latin America, of course, among others. But this is super important to address because there are health issues related. Even money, because it's about how much money I can make on my daily life if I'm, for example, the owner of a hotel. Or we can even talk about education. Am I ready to sort out the waste in my house? So definitely we provide solutions to different kind of questions. How, when, who, and for what.
And when you just said it's for different areas that these solutions are offered, you also mentioned the word hotel. And I think that your current project in Mexico is in close cooperation with Hotel Region.
That's correct. We are currently focusing on one of the highlights for tourism in Mexico. This is the Cancun area. We are specifically working at the island called Holbox. It's approximately 2 hours by car west from Cancun. And there we have interesting challenges because waste management, even though we know the terminology in Mexico, we're not really applying it. And the hotel owners are running crazy because waste is literally all over the place at that island. And of course, tourists are asking, what do you do with that? Why is so polluted? Can we collaborate somehow? So therefore, KFG can help on providing solutions to the hotel owners and work together with the employees at the, let's call it, hospitality sector. So it's not only hotels, it's also restaurants, it's also transport, and of course, the tourist. We want also the tourist to understand that there's an impact from their visit. Of course, a positive because they leave the money in this area, but also negative because of the waste. So this is where we are. And if we are able to successfully get the first project there, we think we can escalate this in other touristic areas in Mexico, like Puerto Vallarta or Acapulco or Los Cabos in the north part of the country.
And then how difficult or not difficult was it to actually find that particular hotel or that particular region to ask you to cooperate with you?
That's a good question. I think the key word here will be like, what kind of networking did you use? We are very convinced that networking is the key element for addressing these kind of challenges in maybe non-common sectors like the hospitality sector. And it was exactly through networking with other colleagues with the same vision that we were able to reach out the Association of Hotels in Holbox, and they were open to listen. They have told us that they had already contact with other companies or previous consultants, but they trusted because they can see that we know what we're talking about, that we are capable to understand their needs at the region and in their sector, and that we have been in person with them at the island. And this helps to just build up trust. And, well, we are just trying to do our best to understand what exactly the needs are for giving solution.
When you say the networking is important, I would conclude that then there is a growing awareness about the issues that you address with your company in Mexico. Is it for the hotel also a selling factor to say we are investing in our environmental issues because the tourists that come to the hotel may be exactly looking for a location that does this in particular?
I will say yes. I think for them, and this is always a point that I bring to the discussion when I sit with any owner from a hotel, it is about sustainability right now. This is like the current word we hear in everywhere when we talk about environment. And so they want to have sustainable vision in their touristic sector. And for having a sustainable vision, you definitely need to implement a sort of principles or strategies that prove your client, in this case, the tourist, that you are responsible, that you are doing something good for the environment. And I think everybody as a tourist, we feel good when we feel we are impacting positively the place we are visiting. I have seen many tourists, especially Europeans, coming to Holbox and saying, hey, I was just walking around the beach and I collected, 3 or 4 bottles of water that were just, there, laying on the floor. And I have seen already some hotels that praise these kind of actions. And in fact, they enhance the activity and saying, hey, next morning when you go running, please take this bag. If you bring this bag full of trash, I give you a cocktail for free at the time you want. So these kind of things are very simple to apply and enhance the potential or simply the interest that we have as a tourist to do something good in this place. And at the same time, the hotel can always say, we care for the environment, we are doing this, we provide these options. And simply working on waste management can also be an element that they can use in order to profit from marketing and say, we have a sustainable vision because we do A, B, C, and D.
The networking in Mexico and also the human factor that you just stressed becomes very visible in what you do. Yet at the moment you are here in Germany, as mentioned before, and you are in Baden-Württemberg, but also you are looking towards Bavaria. These are also 2 top tourist destinations here in Germany. I was wondering why those 2 states are currently on the list of interest for you.
Well, I came first time to Germany back in 2005, and I simply fall in love with Baden-Württemberg. It's beautiful, it's green. I think it's a good place to learn about waste management, for example. That was the reason why I came here to study the master program waste. And I feel simply personally attached to this state. In the case of Bavaria, well, I somehow have realized that Bavaria also has lots of alternatives in terms of environmental or sustainability principles. And in fact, I entered in contact with the Umweltcluster Bavaria, and they are looking exactly for partners outside Germany with whom they could network and help the companies who work in the environmental sector to promote or even sell their products abroad. And this has been exactly a good network, because I was also looking for this opportunity to just bring overseas to Mexico technology that works in the environmental sector for solving the challenges that we have in Mexico.
The next network we want to talk about and we want to look at is the network from your studies. You mentioned that you came to Stuttgart to study in the waste program. At the time, perhaps it was still one of the new programs that we taught in English here at the university. But what actually brought you to Stuttgart, and how did you become aware of our waste program?
That's an interesting story, very funny. Long story short, I was in Mexico in a fair that offers different programs, international programs all around Europe. I was actually on my way out when exactly I saw the name WASTE program. And I just thought, who in the whole world names a master program WASTE? That was actually the catch point. I went there, I talked to the course director, we both found out that I was a good candidate and they were a good university for me, and then I said, yes, here I am. And I came here to Germany in October 2005, but I started my program in 2006 because the first 3 months I dedicated to learn German.
So we learn a lot what's in a name, right?
Yes.
It really can change and influence somebody's life. Now, the networking that you now do, was this at the time here in the studies already part of the program? Were you made aware during your studies how important this is for this particular field of environmental studies?
Yes, definitely. I think one of those key elements from the WASTE Master Program is exactly networking and the international level, because we were at that time 42 students from 21 different countries. So that speaks by itself already about networking. And up to today, something like 15 years later, we're still in touch, most of us. We're still networking and exchanging opinions, ideas, knowledge.
That is amazing, even today. So that really has been a great time, and you managed to really keep going. Are your fellow students from those days are still in the same area? Do they also work in environmental companies or have founded their own companies?
So far I know most of us, we are still working in the same sector, especially my female colleagues. Some of them decided to take, let's say, a pause and become mothers. But slowly they are coming back into business. And yeah, definitely, I think thanks to social media and the elements that we have today, I think we are able to keep in touch very on daily basis.
Christy, when you can talk to your fellow students, to your former fellow students and friends today, do you notice that in different parts of the world, the issues for waste and environmental studies or problems are the same, or are they different? That regards also perhaps lessons learned from your comparison between Mexico and Germany. But overall, back to the first question, really, is it an international likewise issue, or would you say the issue differs in different parts of the world?
I will say that the core question or the issues are the same. But what makes the difference is how every country addresses this challenge, or how each country doesn't address this challenge. And therefore comes into which solutions can I offer, depending on how is understood this challenge.
And when the challenges come up, you encountered them, I think, also during your internship with Daimler Company. You were both in Sindelfingen and you were also in Mexico for Daimler. So at that time, you realized something very noteworthy that we can also read about in the latest issue of our research magazine, Forschung Leben, where there is a report and a small interview with you as well. Please, could you refer to that for us?
Sure. All in all, it was a good experience to be in the, let's say, German mentality work environment. And that was one of my targets, to understand how Germans work. And this was good. But at the same time, I figured out one particular situation, and that was how females, and especially female engineers have to, let's say, face the daily life in the engineering field. And for my surprise, I realized that whether I was in Germany, Europe, or in Mexico, sometimes I was looked less in the sense of either too young, or because I'm a woman, or because perhaps I have some connections and therefore I had this position. Main point here was like I needed to build up my own strengths and abilities as a person to face the challenge, address it correctly, move on, and solve the situation. And I think this is one of the main issues I learned in this experience on how to not allow people to look at me less despite the fact of whether I am younger or a female or with not so much experience.
And as far the topic is concerned, you noticed during the internship differences how waste is handled and the issue is addressed in one and the same company, namely in Sindelfingen and also in Mexico.
Yeah, that was my second experience, which was very interesting. In Sindelfingen, I learned I had to separate waste up to 250 different sorts of waste, while in Mexico, when I arrived at the site, there was zero separation, zero sorting out. And therefore, I was in charge of figuring out a solution for this. And in the end, we were able to separate at least 6 different sorts of waste in Saltillo, in the plant in North Mexico. And we were able to sell, get some revenue, and justify the investment on a waste management system, which was fully paid by itself.
When you realized that, was that a key motivation for you to say, okay, at one day in my life, I will move on and have my own company, be self-employed in this particular area. So combine what you said earlier about defining yourself in a very competitive world, in a world that is very much dominated by one gender rather than the other. And yet you want to make your point and you want to contribute to changing the situation about the environment. And did you find this was the best way for you to go into the private sector and be self-employed?
Well, to be honest, that was my plan in 10 years. But somehow I realized that if I wouldn't take this chance right now, perhaps later will be too late. And yeah, I noticed that even though I'm young, I could potentially go ahead and build up my own company. One of my previous employers and bosses, he always said, Christy, you are never too young to do something. You have the capability to do things and you should do it. And eventually I had the situation where I had to take a decision. Should I keep looking for a job, given the situation that it's currently happening all over the place, or should I start my own business? So I decided to go for the second one, and here I am.
Your interest in the area of waste and environment, or perhaps just environment as such, didn't start with studying waste. It didn't start with building the network. It started much earlier.
Definitely. In fact, I was 6 years old when this curiosity started. And it started with a campaign from a company in Mexico that sells some, chips and candies for kids. And they were talking about what you can do as a person to protect the environment. There was an album that you needed to collect some stickers, and then, you could see clearly what the impacts of pollution into nature looks like and what you potentially do as a person. And this was exactly how it started, because then I felt called to do something in benefit of my environment. And then through the time, I was just looking whether I should study biology or chemistry or civil engineering. And finally, I found environmental engineering. And that's how the, let's say, professional life or the official way of taking care for the environmental started.
Is this an aspect that with your company you would also like to bring to pupils in Mexico, in the area, on the island that you work at? Is that a topic that interests you to make pupils aware of the current situation?
Yes, Yes, and that's a full yes. And I say it 3 times because I believe that if you are able to wake up this awareness in kids, you can do a lot. And the second product that my company sells is exactly that. Consulting for schools to how to implement a program that can raise awareness concerning protection of environment, but also at a professional level. If you are someone that is working currently in that, you can also take our courses or our consulting hours to build up a little bit more in that topic. But definitely education at early stages is the base for any successful program on, for example, waste management to be implemented and to be successful itself.
That's a perfect investment into the future.
Yeah.
Already. Education is, right?
Definitely.
Making the pupils aware, the young ones, really. And a goal for your company at the same time. Now, beyond the educational aspect, what other professional goals do you have for the company to expand, where to go in Mexico, or build up the network that we talked about internationally, perhaps to countries where your fellow students come from? So any specifics on that one that you would like to share with us?
Sure. We have planned that over the next 3 years, we will initially focus in Mexico because the hospitality sector represents at least 9% of the gross product in Mexico. So I think if we focus initially on that, we can definitely gain some reputation, some name, some money, some projects. And if we're successful, let's say with this formula, we will extend into other sectors in Mexico, like the agro industry or food and beverage. In parallel, we will be looking in year 4 into the market in Colombia. We believe that Colombia has a very similar mentality, business mentality and social mentality as in Mexico. And if this is true, probably on the year 4, we will be able to expand into the same sector, hospitality.
The professional aspect is one thing, and that's a level we just heard you are very much engaged in. At the same time, I know that you also engaged in the Mexican-German relations, especially with the state of Hesse. And you are trying to, again, promote the area of environmental studies and concerns through that network. Can you tell us something about it?
I'm currently part of the network of Mexicans abroad, RGMX in short, and we have different chapters all around the world, especially here in Europe. We are like 21 chapters. One of them is the chapter Hessen-Baden-Württemberg, where I am president. The idea of this group is basically collect the know-how or experiences from Mexicans living here in Europe, for example, in order to bring this knowledge or this know-how back into Mexico. It's a way for us to, let's say, from the social responsibility aspect, to contribute in building up Mexico. We have had great chances, and it's a blessing to be here in Europe or in Germany, and we believe we are able to bring back something to our own country.
The next section in our interview, in our conversation rather, is one where I would like to ask you to come up with very short answers. Sometimes a word will do, I guess. Sometimes 1 or 2 sentences will do. We call it here Moment 7, which means there will be 7 questions that we would like you to answer as shortly as possible. So number 1, Spätzle or Maultaschen?
Spätzle.
Number 2, one thing you could change about the world.
Politicians.
Number 3, do you have a book recommendation for us?
Yeah, anything about the Mexican culture.
Number 4, the best advice you ever received.
Keep moving, never look back.
Number 5, favorite place on campus?
Waste, IFK.
Number 6, if I could start all over again, I would do the following differently.
Have more parties.
And number 7, complete the next sentence, please. The best thing about Stuttgart is...
The weather and the forest.
Thank you so much, Christy, for this very lively conversation. Certainly no time wasted here, and I learned a lot. Rather, it showed us the many great aspects of what can be made in science at the University of Stuttgart and beyond.
Thank you, Wolfgang, for the invitation. It has been my pleasure.
You're very welcome. And all the very best for everything you plan to do in the future.
Thank
Auf
you very
Wiedersehen.
much. Nos vemos.